Hi everyone. This is a more of a deep down video on using operator. I had posted an earlier video talking about will operator take my job? The context there was I wanted to see if it could use agent.ai to actually build agents. And my first attempt uh, was actually eye-opening and scary in some ways. Like I had said, it brought up some emotions where I wasn't really sure. I mean, there were things I saw where I was like, whoa, this is the future. And there were things where I wasn't so sure. All I told it was, I'd like you to log into Agent AI and build an agent that takes users' input of a name of an executive in the company they work for, finds their LinkedIn URL, then loads that to get their profile post, and then uses that to generate a disk profile. And it actually logged in, went to the login page, did all that stuff. And I would say generated an output. And so if I look at what it created, and so here was the agent, and this was the first agent that it created, disk profile generator, and it was close enough, but it didn't work. And so if I were to go look at the output from operator, it did generate a disk profile, but if you do go and look at the actual disk profile, it's not for the executive. It's just kind of generic. And if I look at the code, it's very obvious where it went wrong and the mistake it made. Uh, and so that then got me thinking, well, it's great. It's like any employee. If I was to just hire somebody, onboard them, and give them a task, and they got 80% of the way there, I was like, hey, I can quickly mentor them, train them, and give them some instructions which will get them to 80, 100%. And that should be very easy. And this is where it is not very easy. So I went down the path of trying to figure out how to give it better instructions or give it like videos or things like that, that it would learn how to use the product and then go build their own agents and be able to figure itself out. So first thing is the way it works is you give it an activity, it goes to a website, it's taking screenshots from that website, and then it's figuring out from the screenshot, based on your instructions, what it's supposed to do. So your instructions have to be very clear. And in some ways, if you think about it from the standpoint of, let's say you are explaining somebody how to navigate a website in words, rather than saying just order me this product from Amazon, you might say, go here, click on this, click on that. And so, I mean, now that I understood that, I was like, I can work with that if that's kind of how you're going to learn. So I went and I gave it the instructions. But this time, I gave it a lot more instructions. I told it, this is what I want you to do. Um, Sorry, this was the one. I told it that. So first I told it how it works. So I thought maybe it'll help it if it kind of understood how it works. And then I said, take how you work, go to ChatGPT, generate a set of instructions. So because I was like, maybe I am generating instructions which aren't, the way somebody would talk to an application that is computer user aided and goes clicks around. And so I said, this is who you are, this is how you work. And then I said, now go put it, so I want you to, then I gave it the instructions. Log into this, build this new agent to do this, first do this. And now you'll notice I give it very, very specific instructions like go this. And I said, before you doing anything, put it into ChatGPT, ask it to generate. And so it did that. It went and it kind of listed out, this is what you want me to do, how to do it. And so I was feeling pretty good about it. I was like, well, I get it if I gave it kind of vague instructions that it would get stuck at 80%. To get it from 80 to 100%, if I give it very specific instructions, it's actually going to do better. And so it starts doing that, logs into that, it searches for the LinkedIn profile. And now this is where things become interesting, is in some ways, as I gave it more instructions, it became dumber in some ways. So it says, oh, to search for the LinkedIn profile, I need to use a Google search API. And like, how do I find it? So I'm like, okay, go here. Now, if you think about it, the previous time, I didn't have to tell it. I just gave it the instructions and it figured it out. And so then I told it to get data. Then it says, okay, I've configured it, blah, blah, blah. Should I save this? I said, yes. And then it ran a test. And it ran a test with Jane Doe. And I said, you need to run a test with a real user. And then something happened. It got reset. It deleted my agent. And so then it went back and did it all over again. which I guess you have to live with it. And and it was like it couldn't work, it couldn't find it. And when I go look at the agent, so if I go back, and so this was yesterday's agent. So this is today, this is yesterday's. Um, and so it created two agents. So this was where it was testing and then it got. But either one of them, if I go look at it, what is obvious to me why it won't work is you get the user type. So this was great. So that worked. It got the search results. And then basically it's saving the search results and it's passing that as input to the LinkedIn profile activity, while this actually needs a kind of, profile handle. So it needs actually like, my LinkedIn profile URL, not like a search result. And so it's very obvious to me having worked with the product. Um, I guess this gets to the part where if a product's not intuitive, where if the how what to put here is hidden in a pop-up, then I can see where if it didn't go and like, know how to go do this, it wouldn't know that, oh, I got that wrong, and then correct itself. And so instead, what it's doing is it's going and searching for this, passing the search results directly, and obviously that won't work. And so that's kind of where it got stuck. And I gave it instructions. So this time, so that's where it got stuck. So this agent won't work. I know it won't. So that was that. So today, my experiment was, what if I added all of that and I actually told it to, so I gave it all the instructions. You're a QA application. This is how you work, blah, blah, blah. I said, your task is this. Before doing any of this, pass it to ChatGPT. So far, so good. And then detailed instructions. I also, wherever it got stuck, like you couldn't find the use Gen AI, and as it became a little slower yesterday, I was like, I'll give it again. I'm thinking about how you work with a human, where when they get stuck, you give them more instructions. And so I'm giving more instructions, more specificity, and and I told it like, hey, listen, you know what? When you get the LinkedIn profile URL from the search results, it has to be just this, you know, you cannot, so take that, load the profile. I say pass it to an LLM action, generate the disk profile, and then finally display the output. I also now tell it that you need to look at the output, determine if this is giving you something which is accurate. If not, you need to click on the dev console and go to the debugger and check for the response within it. So I'm actually also telling it this is how you go debug. While it had gone and intuitively figured out where the debug was, I told it exactly what to do. And so this time it went in, uh, so logged into ChatGPT, and then for some reason it tried to launch operator, and I said, no, just keep it. So it, fine, followed the instructions better. Um, and then it said, I've set up the agent to receive the executive's name, company as input. However, performing requires specific access or methods. How would you like me to proceed? So now I had to tell it how to do add action, get data, search results. And then it says, hey, I couldn't find the use AI option in the interface. I said, it's under add action. It said, I couldn't find user, So then I said, click on add action and then the use AI. And then it still couldn't find it. So I actually had to do it. And so what I noticed is my assumption was that if you gave it a task, the first time it would be dumb. You give it some instructions, it learns. Next time it will be better. And then the third time it will be better. And as you give better instructions and more instructions, you can train it to get better. Instead, going down this path, what I'm realizing is it just kept getting worse. Things that it had intuitively figured out the first time, it's almost like I micromanaged it and now it become completely dumb. And it's like, how do I do this? How do I do this? I can't figure anything out. And which is an interesting behavior to demonstrate. Either that. The other piece, which is very worrisome about this, is I thought as it builds this a few times, as I'm giving it some of these instructions, it's somehow going into its memory and it's learning and it's going to get better over time. Like, like with a human. If I tell them the next time, I don't have to tell them, they retain it. There is no retention here. It's almost like every time it comes and runs, it's starting from scratch, which to me then is completely useless because if you get me like 70% of the way there, it's useless. I need to get to 100%. And if to get to 100%, I need to tell you what to do, but then you don't retain any of it. And every time you do it, you're back to like 70%. And the more I tell you, you get down to 60% and 50%. Uh, so, so I get that, and again, it didn't give the output, but here's what was also very fascinating. At the end of it, it created two agents this time. So going back to today's date, it created this profile generator. And if I go to the actions, again, get the user input, get the search results. Now it did the good part of what, like extracting the LinkedIn URL using a LLM activity, and then it got the profile and did some things. It actually then went back and like got confused and deleted it. But then when it didn't work and it tried to debug and it did not, it ended up then creating this really stupid agent, which basically says, provide any insights or observations about it, just hard coded the executive's name, and then used that to generate a disk profile and said, I did the job. So now this is also very worrisome in that when it's like showing very interesting human behaviors. Like when it couldn't do it, it just kind of faked it and gave something and said, okay, I'm done. Unless I'm successful, you asked me to do, and it moved on, um, which is not very useful. So anyway, hope y'all find this interesting to see kind of how it works. If anybody's figured out how to train this thing to get better, let me know, because the patterns that we used to train humans, which is give them more instructions, give them clear instructions, handhold them, seems to be counterintuitive to what this does. And again, we've heard about this with like O1 reasoning and stuff like that, where if you try to tell it too much, it doesn't actually work well. It works much better if you just tell it what you want it to do and give it high level context, and then it can figure all of it out. But that again is worrisome for me, because if you're going to be, it's like working with a smart person where they're just like, tell me what you want me to do and then leave me alone and I'm going to go figure it out, which works great if it figures it out 100% of the time. But if it figures it out 80%, and then there is no way for me to get that smart person from 80 to 100%, because when I give them more instructions, they just get more confused, then that is definitely, uh, not very useful.